Hello everybody, I am Nick van den Hurk. I am student of the MOSHI, Management of Safety, Health and Environment course, which is given at TU Delft. I want to thank Socialcom 22 for this opportunity to present my thesis on adaptive modeling and the implementation of EHS standards. My supervisors and co-authors are Jan Treur and Peter Roelersma, who are both connected to several institutes, of which TU Delft is one. So today we're going to talk about EHS, which stands for Environment, Health and Safety. We are going to talk about the standards which industries use to ensure this for their companies. A standard describes on a directive level how certain aspects of the work, like respiratory protection, spill control or high-risk work, should be done, what minimum requirements are, and what goals should be met. An EHS department or officer is often appointed to implement these standards. Together with other EHS professionals and the employees, they assess how to implement standards and create a safe working environment. This is a common practice seen in many of the bigger industries, like the chemical and pharmaceutical. By documenting the EHS implementation process, the organization will also learn. Practical examples of this organizational learning is the drafting of instructions, creating structures or hierarchies, and keeping records. The issue when studying an EHS change is doing a proper intervention study. It's difficult because interventions rarely start at a set time frame or are followed completely through to assess its effectiveness. So sometimes projects are aborted early if there is no direct effect measurable. This is a problem encountered in many EHS related studies, especially those on structure and culture changes within companies. Therefore, this thesis focuses on behavior dynamics in social networks. We use a self-modeling network approach to predict the behavior of people within organizations, specifically on the implementation of EHS standards. In our self-modeling EHS network, we identified several simplified roles, which can be found within a company when implementing EHS standards. First, we have the leadership, who does not have an active role in implementation, but they are accountable for providing a safe work environment. In the end, leaders are responsible for the health and safety of all persons working in a company. They're also responsible for taking care of the environment in which their company is based. Leadership will usually be involved with setting up the system and appointing people, and in the case of an emergency, they could also be called upon. But for day-to-day business, we have the implementation team. In the implementation team, we have the system owner who is appointed to lead the team in implementing one or more specific EHS standards within the site. The system owner could be anyone, but it's usually somebody with a strong program-minded focus. The system owner, or SO, is supported by the EHS expert, who is usually a professional with expertise on the environment, health, or safety standard which is addressed. He or she often supports several standards connected to the expertise at hand. And third, there is a department who usually appoints a contact for the implementation team. This person knows all ins and outs on the department and will provide practical information needed for implementation. So if we visualize the implementation of an EHS standard by the mentioned team, the following would occur. The three parties would start off the implementation. Then there would be two streams of information collection, one from the expert side and one from the shop floor side. Combining this information will lead to the translation of the standard to local documentation and instructions. This needs to be trained to the shop floor and will be audited or supervised to ensure proper execution. So when we visualize this as an adaptive model for organizational learning, we use these steps in the base level and add orders. But the base level is described over here. You see everybody starts with implementing, then the two streams occur. So we have the SO together with the EHS expert gathering the subject matter expertise, and then we have the department together with the SO gathering the needed department specific information. Then we go back to the entire team who writes up local instructions, train the colleagues, and do the internal audit to keep the plan, do, check, act in place. But as said, this is only the base level, and we will need to add orders to create our social model. And if we do that, it looks like this, and we can distinguish the following. We have a base level. This is the lowest level describing the activities or states which are needed in the workflow process modeled. Well, in short, this is where the work gets done. It's visualized in orange. You can see the abbreviated actions followed by the first letter, S for system owner, D for department, E for EHS specialist, and O for organization. The base level is where the work gets done. So you see that the schematic we saw before is shortened to steps A, B, C, D, E, and F. And you also see that for the two work streams, the department doesn't have action B, the EHS expert doesn't have action C, but the organization and the SO work in all of those actions. So in the blue, we have the first order self-modeling level. The states in this level represent weights of connections in between base states influencing the learning process. So in short, this is where the learning happens, and you see that they are connected to all the states in the base level, ensuring that they are able to learn. And then in green, we have the second order self-modeling level. This has the states which control the learning stage and their in-between interactions. In short, this is where the learning process is controlled and learning is enabled and discussed. Part of this is general control. In short, here is where we switch on different phases within the modeled scenario. So here in orange, we have the lead for feed forward and lead for feedback learning, who decide if feed forward and feedback learning is allowed to occur in the adaptive model. So when translating this adaptive model to role matrices and entering them into the MATLAB software environment, we get graphs like this as an output. Here you see the base scenario in which organizational feedback learning is enabled at time point 50 and feed forward learning at time point 100. Feedback learning in practice is the ability of an organization to use present formalized information. Feed-forward learning is when an organization institutionalizes the information which is given to them by learning from processes. After starting the project, the SO has no actions or starting informations, except the need to start implementing. You see that over here. The department only knows its own situation. The EHS expert has only knowledge of the standard and legislation, and the organization knows how to make operating procedures, train employees, and do internal auditing. Without organizational learning, so at time point 0 to 50, this knowledge is not shared. When we enable feedback learning and feed-forward learning, so feedback learning over here, feed-forward learning over there, all mental models rise according to their learning schedule, and they are showing stability in their end phases. So this is our base scenario in which we see that everybody works together and all is well. But in practice, we have several other scenarios we would like to study. So what if the EHS professional does not have the time to provide input? To visualize the EHS department not having this time, it is shown that they do not give input until time point 150, where it is decided that they do need to make time to help to show the difference. A step 1 function was connected to the EHS experts W states, so the learning states, and we named this one the EHS manager. And this EHS manager would decide whether the resources of the department are spent. And you see that after that decision is taken, a lot of the mental models also rise to the level where we need them to be. The EHS expert still does not join the mental model formed by the SO department and organization, and this means that in practice the standard was already implemented without subject matter input, and we need to retrospectively see if we can level up a certain amount of this. So this is one of the scenarios described in my paper. In a second scenario, the SO spends only 20% of the required time for standard implementation, which is shown by adding a step mod function peaking between TS 40 and TS 60 of every cycle. It's interesting to see that this modularity of the SO does not influence the mental models of others very much. In practice, it could be not well received as the other part of the organization is doing their part and the SO only spends little time. Note that it's not by definition 20% of the full-time equivalent they need to spend, but rather 20% of the time needed to perform the task. So if they would need to spend 2 days to do this task for their work, in the end they would only be doing 1/5 of that work. One logic step that leadership often takes is making the EHS expert also the system owner, as they only need system information to be able to do that task. To shorten the lines and be more efficient, this could be combined into one person. Computational, this would be simulated by adding direct connections between the EHS expert and the system owner on both the base level as on the first order. In this way, we portray that both activities are roles and not persons. So in the figure, it seems that there are less lines or mental models, but this is just a visual trait of the SO and EHS mental models overlapping, as they are the same person in this case. While this seems to be a very efficient solution, it's only shown for one EHS standard. In practice, it would not be possible to have this done for every standard, as it would lead to very large and bulky EHS departments. So, these were 3 of the examples I have in my paper. I have several more, and the study is the first of its kind which uses this self-modeling social network in the execution of EHS activities with shop floor information like this. It demonstrates the importance of cooperation and open communications between the SO, EHS expert, and department. This is needed to be able to learn about processes and efficiently safeguard the organizations and its members. The scenarios specifically show that it's important to enable feed-forward and feedback learning. It's important to provide proper resources, so we need enough time and money to be able to implement our standards. External support can help an organization. We did not touch on that in this presentation, but it is in the paper. But to be able to fully wield an external's knowledge, consultants should be integrated in the organization as much as possible and be part of the team. And the final conclusion is that EHS experts having a double role can work very efficiently, but it should be noted what I said in the previous slide. So with that conclusion, I want to thank you all for watching. If you want to know more, you can read the paper, reach out to me, or have a look at the Shared Mental Models and Organizational Learning YouTube channel. I thank you all and I wish you a pleasant day.